The New York Islanders are making another change in their lineup. Mathew Barzal moving back to the wing. We'll talk about why this is being done and the impact it'll have on the team. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey. We have got a lot to discuss on this show. Mathew Barzal moving back to the wing, at least for now. We'll tell you why. And yes, it does have something to do with the play of Cal Ritchie. We'll answer your mailbag questions on a variety of Islanders-related topics, and we will preview tonight's game against the Boston Bruins as the Islanders go for their third straight win. Let's start with the Cal Ritchie, Mathew Barzal situation, because this is very interesting, to say the least. And first of all, Cal Ritchie, in his first 2 games as an Islander, has played very, very well. He doesn't have big numbers right now, but he has been on a line with Jonathan Drouin and Kyle Palmieri, which is now the second line. And, in the game against Columbus, that line did not allow a shot on goal. So it's been a good line of, they have immediate chemistry. They're responsible defensively. And I think Wah indicated that, he likes playing Ritchie with Drouin and Palmieri, who are 2 veterans who, kind of play an all-3 zone, 200-foot kind of a game. So Wah basically talking to reporters today asked about Ritchie. He's got some really good skills offensively. I'm pleased with him. Playing with Drouin and Palmieri, I think he'll learn a lot, and they'll be great mentors for him. He couldn't have been better than these 2 guys. So definitely liking that. And it looks like at this point that Cal Ritchie, he was steady, he was solid, and he appears to be someone who is most likely going to stay, barring a poor performance or, several most likely poor performances. So, again, Patrick Waugh said, I thought he played really well. I was impressed because he looked like he was pretty calm out there. I mean, you could tell he played some games last year and played a lot of exhibition games. And so what were the adjustments that were made to the lineup? Well, now, since Ritchie comes up, it's been Horvat, Heineman, and Barzal, Ritchie, Drouin, Palmieri, Pajot, Lee, and Holmstrom as your third line, and then Cizikas, Duclair, and McLean on the fourth line. And Wah explaining why he made these changes. We were not generating much offense. I thought it was time to try things. Like I said all year, we're going to try things. And boy, has he ever. It was nice to put Barzy back with Bo and then having Emil with them. And I thought Ritchie played really well with Drouin and Palmsy. So basically what we've got now is three lines that seem to be clicking. I mean, Heineman is off to a good start. Horvat and Barzal, we know the chemistry they've had over the past year and a half or so. Ritchie, Drouin, and Palmieri off to a good start, as we mentioned. Pajot and Holmstrom have great chemistry together. Lee adds a little bit of size to that line and a net front presence. And then you've got the fourth line. And let's face it, right now, this fourth line of Cizikas, Duclair, and McLean is struggling. And they're not getting a lot of ice time. Why? Because they don't deserve a lot of ice time based on the way they've played so far this year. Casey Cizikas, I hate to say this because I've been a big Casey Cizikas fan for a long, long time. Love what he's done for this team over the years. But in 12 games, he has a goal, an assist. He's a -5. His face-off percentage, believe it or not, and Cizikas historically has been good in the dot. His face-off percentage is 37.4. So Cizikas has not been playing well. After a good first couple of games, Anthony Duclair, 2 goals, 3 points in 12 games. He has not really done well. And let's face it, Duclair's skill set is not really a fit on the fourth line. And as for Kyle McLean, he's a -5. He has no points in 8 games. And he has 19 penalty minutes, 14 hits. I don't see really what McLean adds to the mix as far as he's not the fastest guy. He's fairly physical. He's not great defensively, but he does give you effort. He's not going to provide you with a lot of offense. And he has not really stood out. Now, Patrick Waugh has said, hey, I like what I've seen from Kyle McLean. I've been watching him. I don't see it. You have Max Siplikov, who has 1 goal and is a -6 in the 8 games that he's played. He's been a healthy scratch because his lack of foot speed and his lack of ability to sort of play the style that Waugh wants him to play. Waugh not happy with his hockey sense right now. That seems to be an issue for Siplikov, and he also really isn't a great fit on the fourth line. So you got a lot of question marks on the fourth line. Even now, though, I like the Bo and Barzy reunion. I like the fact that Ritchie has kind of established himself on the second line for now. Again, with Patrick Waugh, we all know this is a revolving door, that changes will be made as soon as struggles take place for extended. And when I say extended periods of time, that could be, a period or sometimes even less. But realistically, Cal Ritchie has arrived. Hopefully he stays on Long Island with the big club for the rest of the year. But now you still have Max Shabanov, who has been injured and is starting to skate on his own as of now, but is not close right now to returning. But where do you put him when he returns? Siplikov may or may not have a role. I still think Mark Gatcomb is a better fit on the fourth line than McLean. He'll score more than McLean will. He'll hit more than McLean will. He's not a center, but again, this fourth line is kind of a little bit of a mess right now, and the Islanders have to figure it out. But as of now, they seem to have 3 solid line combinations for the top 9, and that in and of itself is progress. And again, the big debate about Mathew Barzal. Yes, he is a natural center. Not going to argue with that. Is center his best position? Maybe. It does give him more room to skate. Sometimes that makes him his own worst enemy. because he overdoes it and turns the puck over. But when he's on his game, the idea that he can move in either direction as a center, skate around in either direction is definitely a plus. So I get it, but the way this team is built right now, and everydayers will remember, I've talked about this, in training camp even and earlier in the season, that the Islanders have a glut of centers and they are lacking offensive-minded wingers. So by putting Barzal on the wing with Bo, you end up with more speed and more offensive ability on the wing, and you allow Ritchie to slot in as the 2C, which seems to be ultimately where he's going to be. Now, he could drop down to 3C. You could drop Pajot to 4C and sit Cizikas. There are a lot of options. And the good thing about all of this, and this is something that the Islanders lacked the last few years, there's competition for spots in this lineup. There's more depth and more competition in this lineup right now than there has been in the last 2-3 years. And we're happy about that. I'm not saying this team is an offensive juggernaut or that they're ready to be Stanley Cup contenders tomorrow, but you add Schaefer, you add a younger player in Heineman, you add Drouin, and then most importantly, you add the young guns in Mathew Schaefer, who's off to this incredible start, and now Cal Ritchie. And all of a sudden, pieces are starting to fall into place. Long way to go. Still a lot of changes that need to be made. Older guys they should move on from. Bring in more picks, more prospects, more younger players. We'll see how Matthew Darche handles this. But right now, Cal Ritchie impacting the line combinations for the New York Islanders. We have got a lot more to discuss. We have mailbag questions from you, and some good ones, I might add. So we'll answer your mailbag questions. We'll preview tonight's game against the Bruins. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a goalie who was with the Islanders in the late 90s, and he's from the province of Quebec. Let's see if you can guess who that is. All that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401k, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. I love the fact that Monarch, if you and your significant other share accounts, it can help you stay on the same page. And Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where my money's going and how to make it work harder for me. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Check it out today. All right, let's dip into the mailbag, and boy, there are many of them. This one is from Chris in New Hampshire. Gil, the longer I watch professional sports, the more I become convinced that coaching and managing is really important. The year Barry Trotz became our coach, which was the first post-Tavares year, the team showed dramatic improvement with arguably less talent in the lineup. As soon as Trotz left, we went right back to being mediocre. This has continued under Patrick Waugh. I'm afraid that Waugh is not the answer at coach. Who will be the next great Islanders coach? Tough for me to answer who the next guy is going to be. I think Waugh still has more time. I think realistically, expectations, the Islanders brass has been saying, we think this team can make the playoffs this year. And they may be right. depending, like I've said, if everybody's healthy, if everyone, if some of the younger guys like Holmstrom and Schaefer and Heineman continue to play well or even exceed expectations, yeah, this team could possibly sneak into the playoffs. But they're, again, at best in the middle of the Eastern Conference. So the bottom line is that Patrick Waugh, while Matthew Darche opted to keep Patrick Waugh, he is not the choice of Matthew Darche. He wasn't hired by Matthew Darche. So to me, if Waugh doesn't lose the locker room and this team stays in the playoff race till very late in the season, I think Waugh will probably be back next year. But the other key thing to watch with Waugh is, how do the young players develop? And I think that is going to be huge. So we'll see how this all plays out. I don't know if Waugh is the next great coach. So far, I think he's okay. He has potential. He never really had a roster that kind of fits all the style that he wants to play. We'll see how things proceed from here. But the next great Islanders coach may not be out there just yet. Next question is from Jonathan in Westfield, New Jersey. Hi, Gil. I've been enjoying the daily podcast this season with all the excitement around number 48, Matthew Schaefer, and the team in the early going. With Sorokin struggling big time early on and last season as well, what are the chances that Big Save Dave, a.k.a. David Rittich, could overtake Sorokin as the top goalie? I know it's only been a few games, but Rittich has looked much better in my eyes than Sorokin and more confident. Is there any scenario where Rittich could start more than 50% of the games, or is that a non-starter and Sorokin will continue to be the top goalie no matter how much he struggles because of the contract and other factors? Keep up the great work and let's go Islanders. Jonathan from Westfield, New Jersey. Jonathan, thank you so much for the question and the kind words. Look, I think, first of all, Sorokin has looked better the last couple of starts, and I know you sent this late last week. But here's the bottom line. The job is Sorokin's to lose, okay? The only way I see Rittich playing more than half the games is if Sorokin is injured and misses time, or if he just goes into a prolonged slump. If you remember, 2 seasons ago, when the Islanders snuck into the playoffs by winning 9 of their last 10 games, Varley took over because Sorokin was either dealing with his an injury, the bad back may have been an issue, or he just wasn't playing well, or some combination of those things. So they rode the hot hand. I could see if Rittich really has a great year, and he's done well in 3 of his 4 starts so far this year. Instead of, 65 or 70% to 30 or 35% of the starts in favor of Sorokin, could I see it going closer to 55-45 or 60-40? Yes. If Sorokin is healthy, it's his job, and he'll get the bulk of the starts unless he really, really just can't seem to get the job done. We'll see if that changes, but as of right now, that's where we are. Sean in Wisconsin with this question. Who would you say has been the biggest disappointment thus far into the season, taking into account injuries? And who has been the biggest surprise that you wouldn't have expected to be during the summer? And barring injuries, would you expect that to continue? I have a feeling who you might say for each. Sean in Wisconsin. Sean, thank you very much for the question. And I think, look, I think Heineman is probably the biggest surprise. You could say Matthew Schaefer, but I think with Schaefer, it's just degree, right? I think Schaefer, everyone expected him to be good, but maybe not this good, this fast. But Heineman, I had him plugged in on the 4th line, And I'm not saying he is a bona fide top line or top six kind of a guy long term, but boy, is he off to a solid start. And, I would make him, as of now, the biggest surprise. The biggest disappointment, as of right now, there's a few candidates out there. I could go Casey Cizikas. I certainly could go Ilya Sorokin, who, still, even after the last 2 games where he played a little better, has a 3.40 goals against and an 877 save percentage right now. Those numbers are not great numbers. So I could go Sorokin. I could go Cizikas, although with Zeke, like the offensive numbers being as low as they are, no shock. But the bad face-off numbers and the way he's played have been a big concern. I think Siplikov could certainly fit. And as of right now, it's either Sorokin or Siplikov who would be my disappointments for the season so far. One more real quick. Joe from Vero Beach, Florida. Hi, Gil. As always, I really enjoy and look forward to your show. Your commentary on the Islanders' lack of an enforcer echoes my concerns ever since Matt Martin retired. You mentioned that Clark Gillies protected Mike Bossy, and that's very true. Plus, those teams also had Nystrom, Gary Howitt, even Dave Lewis, Dave Langevin. Who would mix it up? You left out Gordy Lane, but that's fine. When necessary, and nobody messed with the Isles when Dennis Potvin was on the ice. I don't see an enforcer in the organization who could step into that role currently. So if they go in that direction, they'd have to get someone from another club. But 2 to 3 years down the road, do you see anyone in the organization who could fill the void? Maybe Kashawn Aitchison or Jesse Pulkkinen. Look forward to your thoughts. Joe, I think you named the 2 guys who fit that role best, but Aitchison and Pulkkinen, kind of struggling right now, and we'll talk more about that on tomorrow's podcast. And Aitchison is off to a great start offensively in juniors, but I'd say he's 2 to 3 years away from being NHL ready. But those are the guys who I think would fit the bill the best. We have got a lot more to come. We have the Islanders and the Bruins tonight. We will have a full preview of that game, plus our Islanders birthday of the day, all that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you could even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, that's FanDuel.com. Place that first $5 bet, and if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com. Check it out today. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for these opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated, and all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in. It's the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love that what you see is what you pay. There are no hidden fees at checkout. And their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. game time. So it's the Islanders and the Boston Bruins. And this is a big one because the Islanders are going for 3 straight. And the big question is, can they do it? And, the Islanders, we know they're capable of performing well on any given night, but they're also capable of being bad on any given night. They are so inconsistent. You need to start putting some wins together. So the Bruins come in, they're 7-7. They've played more games than most teams, coming off a 2-1 win against the Carolina Hurricanes. They haven't played since Saturday. We know the goalies, familiar faces, Jeremy Swayman, Joonas Korpisalo, and the names at the top, David Pastrnak, 17 points in 14 games, Pavel Zacha, 12 points, Morgan Geekie, 9 goals in 14 games, and Charlie McAvoy with 10 assists. This is a team that is familiar to Islander fans. They're 5th in the league in goals, but 28th in goals allowed. Both the power play and the PK just slightly above average. 13th on the power play, 14th on the PK. Marat Kuznetsov is the first-line center with Geekie and Pastrnak on either side. Pavel Zacha, Casey Middlestat, and Victor Arvids in the second line. Fraser Minton, Tanner Jeannot, and Mark Kostelik are the third line. And from left to right on the fourth line, John Beecher, Sean Curley, and Michael Yzerman. On the blue line, Nikita Zadorov and Charlie McAvoy are a great top pair. Hampus Lindholm and Andrew Peak, the middle pair. And the third duo is Jonathan Asparat and Henri Jokaru. The goalies, as we mentioned, Swayman and Korpisalo. Jordan Harris on IR. Elias Lindholm is out. We'll see whether or not he is able to return. This is the second meeting between these two teams, and it should be a really good opportunity for the Islanders to win a game at home before they, got one more game at home after this to head out on the road and have a 7-game road trip. And by the way, Bruins won that first meeting by a score of 5-2. So the Islanders looking for a little revenge, and they will face the Bruins for the third and final time this year on November 26th. So the season series will be over quickly. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And, well, today is the 50th birthday of former Islanders goalie Eric Fichaud, the Anjou, Quebec native, 5'11", 171 pounds, a first-round pick, 16th overall of the Toronto Maple Leafs, but made his NHL debut with the Isles in 95-96, was with the team through 97-98, then played for Nashville and Carolina and Montreal, finished his career in the minors, played in 95 career NHL games, had a 3.14 goals against average, a record of 22-47-10, and an .897 save percentage. And in Fichaud's defense, the Islanders, this was the fisherman jersey era, and he did not have a particularly good team in front of him. But one of his better games as an Islander, October 12th, 1996, Islanders hosting the Philadelphia Flyers at Fort Never Lose, the Nassau Coliseum. Garth Snow, the Flyers goalie, Eric Fichaud, obviously the Islanders goalie. And in this game, Fichaud, our Islanders birthday of the day, stops 29 of 30 shots. That's a .967 save percentage. And the Islanders get 2 goals from Marty McGuinness and Derek King as they beat the Philadelphia Flyers by a score of 5-1. And Eric Fichaud really shining in this game. It was a pretty even game. Shots on goal were 30-29 Philadelphia, but Fichaud came up with some really big saves to help the Islanders beat their division rivals. Eric Fichaud, a solid goalie on some not so solid Islanders teams in the late 90s. He is our Islanders birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, Check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. You can get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you could send us an email like the questions I answered today. The email address is lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we're back tomorrow. We have our weekly farm and prospects report. Plus, we will have our key takeaways and our hero and GOAT of the game from tonight's game against the Boston Bruins. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.